A very good morning and thanks for tuning in to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television. My name is Aishwarya Kapoor and here are this morning's headlines. Peace gets a chance. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un steps up over the dividing line into South Korea to meet President Moon Jae-in for talks. Becomes the first leader to do so since the Korean War ended 65 years ago. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Wuhan, China for a heart-to-heart informal summit with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Both sides to give an honest try for working out understanding on a host of issues, including the border dispute. Government seeks a due representation for SC/ST communities in Supreme Court. In letter written to the CJI, Law Ministry says there is no representation of the community in the apex court since long. Senior advocate Indu Malhotra to take oath as a Supreme Court judge today. Last day for the withdrawal of candidature in Karnataka polls today. High voltage campaigning on. BJP President Amit Shah in the north of the state today. Rahul Gandhi to release Congress's manifesto. And the Champions Trophy 2021 is slated in India converted into World T20 tournament. ICC decides to swap a one-day international format with the T20 format. Doubles the number of teams to 16. Our top story this morning, it was a historic moment as North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and South Korean's President Moon Jae-in shook hands this morning over the military demarcation line that divides their countries. The North Korean leader, in a symbolic gesture, stepped over the line, making him the first North Korean leader to set foot in the South since the Korean War ended in the armistice 65 years ago. Then the two men also stepped back over the line into the north before walking into the Peace House building for the summit. Denuclearization and a peace treaty will be on the table at the Inter-Korean Summit. Leaders of the two Koreas have only met twice before in the year 2000 and 2007. Here are the details.
A historic summit. The leaders of North and South Korea meeting for the first time in more than a decade at the demilitarized zone that divides the two nations. It was a day in the spotlight as much of their meeting was broadcast live on TV. The first visuals being both the leaders and their entourages moving towards the border. South Korean President Moon Jae-in left early morning from the Blue House in Seoul, waving to his supporters. Thereafter driving to the border, followed by the world's TV cameras and helicopters. He went over the Unification Bridge and thereafter inside the demilitarized zone, the DMZ. And then the historic moment. The two leaders come face to face. Kim Jong-un and Moon shaking hands. First, Kim stepped into South Korean soil and then Moon briefly steps over the border back into North Korea with him. Handshakes on both sides of the border. Expectedly, there were smiles and cheers all around. Kim Jong-un also became the first North Korean leader to cross the line dividing the two Koreas since fighting ended in the Korean War 65 years ago. The leaders met by an honor guard in traditional costume on the South Korean side. They posed with children, saluted the anthems and walked along the red carpet to inspect troops. Moon also shook hands with Kim's sister, Kim Yo-jong. Thereafter, the leaders proceeded inside the Peace House. The talks take place in Panmunjom, the place where the Korean War armistice was signed. Ever since, it has been a crucial venue for inter-Korean talks. The Peace Village sits in the no-man's land of the DMZ. Kim first signed the guest book with Moon politely standing alongside. The two leaders are likely to talk about the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, the improvement of bilateral relations and a formal peace settlement. There might be a decision on renewing economic cooperation, meaning the likely reopening of the Kaesong Industrial Complex, a site just north of the border where until 2016, North Koreans worked for South Korean companies. The site was suspended as a protest against North's nuclear and missile tests. The meeting between Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in comes after North Korean leader said in January this year that his country wanted to take part in South Korean Olympics. The talks that followed led to the plans for this inter-Korean summit, and this meeting today comes ahead of the much-anticipated meeting between Kim Jong-un and US President Donald Trump later this year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, let's get a perspective on the story. Ms. Meera Shankar, former ambassador, is now joining us on the phone line. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us this morning on Rajya Sabha television. Ma'am, first Kim Jong-un's New Year's olive branch to Seoul and the eager reciprocation by South Korean President Moon Jae-in, and that has led to the resumption of previously dormant inter-Korean talks. How do you look at the development?
Well, it's a very positive development. Because the world was on the brink of war, the way things were going with testing by North Korea of ballistic missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, nuclear tests, and threats by President Trump. So this is a very positive development. It's also the result of concerted efforts by South Korean President Moon Jae-in,
yes,
who had in his election platform emphasized the need for talks with North Korea to resolve the issue, and they have been working at it. In fact, the South Korean president has been associated with the previous summit talks with North Korea in his capacity as an assistant to the previous president. So I think this is something which they have been working on, and the North Koreans have also responded. Maybe because their testing is now complete, they feel they have enough of a deterrent, or for whatever reasons, because these economic sanctions have been ramped up internationally through the UN, and they are beginning to bite on fuel and other necessities. Whatever the reasons, it's a positive step.
Right.
And, we don't know what the outcome is. It's like the first moves in a chess game. These moves are then going to determine what the state of play is going to be in the rest of the game, because it's prior to the meeting with President Trump. And then, so it's in a sense setting the stage. From the South Korean side, they are looking at, a peace agreement or peace declaration,
yes,
denuclearization, reduction of military tensions, and then economic cooperation with the North. The North would probably be looking for easing of sanctions, recognition of Kim Jong-un as an equal interlocutor with the U.S., which will happen when he meets the U.S. president, and, resumption of economic assistance and cooperation.
All right.
So the two sides are looking at different things, and we have to see how it is going to pan out. But this is a positive step for the world community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ma'am, for all those updates and that perspective on that story. So that summit meeting between the two Korean leaders is on at the moment. Of course, we'll keep getting all the updates as and when they happen. On to the other top story of the day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in China to hold a first informal talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping. While there is no set agenda of the one-on-one meeting, many important issues, including the border issue and terrorism, are expected to be taken up. Both the leaders will also look to bridge the trust deficit following the Doklam standoff.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in China's Wuhan city for his much-anticipated informal meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Spread over 2 days, today and Saturday, both the leaders will hold talks on areas of mutual interest and international issues. In a tweet ahead of embarking on his visit to China, Prime Minister Modi said that he and the Chinese president will review developments in India-China relations from a strategic and long-term perspective. Interestingly, there is no set agenda for the Prime Minister's meeting with Xi Jinping, and no formal announcements are expected. The meeting will take place in a friendly setting, which may lead to opening of new doors in India-China relations.
That there is going to be no set agenda for their talks. It is not that there is a long agenda through which the two leaders will work through. There will be no set agenda. They will be in a very informal setting, a friendly setting. They will probably have a walk in the park, or they might have a boat ride on the East Lake here in Wuhan. And while they're doing this, they will be discussing various issues between the two of them.
But the meeting is a major diplomatic initiative to resolve issues after the 73-day-long Doklam standoff last year that soured relations between the two nations. Indian ambassador to China, Gautam Bambawale, said that the meeting may set a course for the development of bilateral ties.
It is quite possible that they might talk about their views of how each of their countries is going to develop in the coming 15 or 20 years. They might talk about the current world situation and in what directions the world is progressing. They might talk about how India views China, how China views India, and in this atmosphere they will also talk a few things about India-China relations.
The talks are likely to include issues relating to the resolution of border disputes, Pakistan and terrorism, NSG, UNSC, climate change, International Solar Alliance and the BRI project, among others. The two leaders may also discuss boosting trade ties.
They will have an in-depth exchange of views on issues of long-term and strategic importance in bilateral relations. This exchange will help deepen mutual trust between the two countries and set a course for development of bilateral ties. It will also open up new prospects in China-India cooperation. This informal summit will not only benefit the two countries and two peoples, but also have an important positive impact on peace and development in the region and beyond.
This will be Prime Minister Modi's fourth visit to China. He is due to visit China again to take part in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in June. The last meeting between Modi and Xi took place in September last year on the sidelines of the 9th BRICS Summit. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's get you all the latest from Karnataka. Well, today is the last day for the withdrawal of candidature in Karnataka, and over 3,900 nominations were received for the 224 seats in Karnataka elections, for which will take place in a single phase on 12th of May. Filing of nominations for the Karnataka Legislative Assembly election ended on Tuesday with over 1,700 nominations filed on the last day. Now, counting of votes will be on 15th of May. And earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with the BJP workers, candidates, office bearers, elected representatives and party leaders in Karnataka via the Modi app on Thursday. And addressing party workers, Prime Minister Modi promised an all-round development for Karnataka. He also accused the Congress of playing caste politics. Here are all the details.
Interacting with BJP workers via the Namo app, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday said the BJP had always given primary importance to the politics of development. Accusing the Siddaramaiah government of stalling progress in the state, he said the party has the agenda of fast-paced and all-round development for the state.
हम विकास के मुद्दे पर चुनाव लड़ना चाहते हैं, हम संगठन की शक्ति पर चुनाव लड़ना चाहते हैं, हम जनता का विश्वास जीत करके चुनाव जीतना चाहते हैं, हम जनता को गुमराह कर करके चुनाव के मैदान में जाने के पक्षकार नहीं है, हमें उनको दिल जीतना है, उनका विश्वास जीतना है, और जनता जनार्दन का दिल जीत लेते हैं, विश्वास जीत लेते हैं, तो चुनाव कोई पराजित नहीं कर सकता.
Prime Minister Modi also accused the Congress of spreading false propaganda and hiring foreign agencies to mislead people. He said the Congress was dividing the society along caste lines.
कोई इनकार कर सकता है कि भारत के राजनीतिक कल्चर की मुख्य धारा कांग्रेस के कुकर्मों और कांग्रेस के पाप से जुड़ी हुई है, कोई इनकार नहीं कर सकता. और दलों में भी अगर कुछ बुराई आई है तो उसके पीछे भी राजनीतिक कल्चर कांग्रेस की मुख्य धारा के कारण आई है. जब तक कांग्रेस कल्चर को मुख्य धारा से मुक्ति नहीं दिलाएंगे, मैं नहीं मानता हूं कि हम देश में राजनीतिकरण का शुद्धिकरण कर पाएंगे।
The Prime Minister told party workers to reach out to every single voter while urging people to elect a BJP government with an absolute majority to give a fillip to development in the state. Joining the BJP campaign in the state, he will address a public rally in Karnataka's Udupi on May 1st. BJP sources revealed that Prime Minister Modi is expected to address at least 15 to 20 rallies in the state. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And responding to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's allegations against the Siddaramaiah government, Congress President Rahul Gandhi claimed that BJP had given tickets to 8 tainted candidates for the upcoming state assembly election. Rahul Gandhi, who is in Karnataka for the 7th leg of his poll campaign, held a roadshow in North Kannada's district's Ankola, where he also interacted with the people there. The Congress chief hit out at the centre over the alleged waiver of huge bank loans of industrialists, a benefit he claimed that was denied to the farmers. Now, claiming that the Congress and Chief Minister Siddaramaiah had worked for the welfare of farmers and the poor, Rahul Gandhi accused the BJP of indulging in divisive politics.
समाज को बांटने का काम करते हैं। एक व्यक्ति को दूसरे व्यक्ति से लड़ाएंगे, हिंदू को मुसलमान से लड़ाएंगे, एक जात के व्यक्ति से दूसरे जात की व्यक्ति की लड़ाई कराएंगे और फिर विकास की बात करेंगे। आप मुझे बताइए, 4 साल हो गए, मोदी जी जहां भी जाते हैं विकास की बात करते हैं। मैं आपसे पूछना चाहता हूं, नोटबंदी से आपको विकास मिला?
And in related news, the Congress party has demanded a probe from the Civil Aviation Ministry after a plane carrying Congress President Rahul Gandhi developed a technical snag on Thursday. In the letter, the party demanded a thorough probe into the suspicious and a faulty performance of the aircraft before landing at the Hubballi airport in North Karnataka. In its complaint, the party said that the plane suddenly tilted heavily on the left side and the altitude dipped steeply with violent shuddering of the aircraft despite the weather being normal.
जिस प्रकार का हादसा हुआ है, इसमें किसी गड़बड़ी की आशंका को अभी झुठलाया नहीं जा सकता। एक बाकायदा एक शिकायत कर्नाटक के डीजीपी को लिखित तौर में दी गई है, जिसमें पूरे हादसे की व्यापक चर्चा हुई है। हमें उम्मीद है कि डायरेक्टर जनरल सिविल एविएशन और डायरेक्टर जनरल पुलिस कर्नाटका पूरे मामले की तहकीकात करेंगे, ये देखने के लिए कि क्या इस हादसे में कोई ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन तो नहीं थी।
Let's get you some other news now. The government has sought due representation for the SC and ST communities in the Supreme Court. In a letter written to Chief Justice of India, Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad said that there is no representation of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities in the Supreme Court since long. The letter was written informing the Apex Court about the decision to return the recommendation of elevating Justice K.M. Joseph to the top court. And earlier on Thursday, the centre returned the Supreme Court Collegium's recommendation to elevate Uttarakhand High Court Chief Justice K.M. Joseph as the Supreme Court judge. Justifying its stand of returning the recommendation, Law Minister said that the proposal was not in accordance with the top court's parameters.
The central government on Thursday asked the Supreme Court Collegium to reconsider its recommendations to elevate Uttarakhand High Court Chief Justice K.M. Joseph as a Supreme Court judge. The centre said the elevation may not be appropriate. In a 6-page letter to Chief Justice of India Deepak Mishra, Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad said the proposal to reconsider Joseph's name was approved by the President and the Prime Minister. The letter also said that in proposing the name of Justice Joseph, the collegium had not followed the principle of seniority.
तो इस सरकार में प्रधानमंत्री से लेकर प्रमुख लोग मीडिया न्यायपालिका की आजादी के लिए संघर्ष कर चुके हैं और हमारी पूरी प्रतिबद्धता है न्यायपालिका की गरिमा के लिए, उनकी आजादी के लिए, उनकी स्वायत्तता के लिए।
The Supreme Court also refused to hold back the appointment of senior advocate Indu Malhotra. The Apex Court said the demand was unimaginable. On Wednesday, the government approved Malhotra's appointment but held back decision on Joseph. The Congress also criticized the government on Thursday for not approving Justice Joseph's elevation.
वो केवल वही जजेस चाहती हैं, हमारी केंद्र सरकार, जिन पे उनकी सहमति हो। कानून कहता है कि जो कोलिजियम चाहता है वही अपॉइंट होगा। ये सरकार चाहती है कोलिजियम जो भी कहे रिकमेंडेशन, हम उसको नजरअंदाज करेंगे।
Responding to the charges of the Congress, the law minister said the opposition parties had no moral authority to question the judiciary from them.
इमरजेंसी क्यों लगाई गई थी? क्योंकि इंदिरा गांधी के खिलाफ इलाहाबाद हाईकोर्ट ने फैसला करके उनके चुनाव को निरस्त किया गया था। बहरुल इस्लाम को पहले एमपी बनाया गया, फिर जज बनाया गया। ये कई प्रकरण हैं जो कांग्रेस पार्टी के बारे में स्पष्ट बताते हैं कि न्यायपालिका की गरिमा के बारे में उनकी क्या सोच रही है।
Both names were recommended by the collegium in January. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And senior advocate Indu Malhotra will be administered oath of office by Chief Justice Deepak Mishra today at the Supreme Court. This will make her the first woman lawyer to enter the top judiciary directly. 61-year-old Malhotra's name, cleared by the government, was one of the two recommended by the collegium to be elevated to the apex court bench. Her name was approved by the SC Collegium on 10th of January with a resolution saying that she is eminently suitable for the elevation. Malhotra would be the 7th woman judge in the top court since independence, as only 6 women judges have made it to the Supreme Court so far. Other women judges were elevated to the apex court from high courts. Currently, Justice R. Bhanumati is the lone woman judge in the apex court. And Union Minister for Social Justice Thawar Chand Gehlot has said that if the Supreme Court's decision on a centre's review petition on the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act did not go in the government's favour, it would issue an ordinance. Speaking at an event in Mumbai, he said that attempts are being made to create an atmosphere that the centre is doing away with reservations or diluting the Atrocities Act. He reiterated that the government had no intention to tamper with the reservations. He also said that if the apex court order does not favour the government's stand, it will issue an ordinance, as the centre is a firm believer in the tenets of the constitution shaped by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. On to some other news. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has stressed on the first posting of MBBS graduates in rural areas to meet the shortage of doctors in villages of the country. Speaking at the convocation ceremony of RML's postgraduate program in the national capital, the Vice President lamented that even after 70 years, the country is faced with many challenges, including poverty, illiteracy, problem of drinking water in many rural and urban areas.
To overcome the problem of manpower shortage in rural areas, I have been wondering if we should make it mandatory for the MBBS graduates to work in rural areas before getting their first promotion. I am very keen that the government, the minister is also here, the three of them, and also the other senior people, they should really ponder over this in a very serious manner.
And now news from the United States. Mike Pompeo has been sworn in as the new U.S. Secretary of State. Pompeo was confirmed by a vote of 57 to 42 in the Republican-controlled Senate. Like Donald Trump's previous nominee, Pompeo was confirmed by a relatively narrow margin. Pompeo is already deeply involved in diplomacy. Trump sent him to North Korea 3 weeks ago to meet with the country's leader Kim Jong-un ahead of a summit with U.S. President to address Pyongyang's nuclear program. And moments after Pompeo was sworn in, the former CIA director set off immediately on a trip to meet key allies in Europe and the Middle East. The State Department said that he would visit Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Israel during the weekend after attending a NATO meeting on Friday in Brussels. And on to sports now. The International Cricket Council, or the ICC, has decided to convert the 2021 Champions Trophy slated in India into a World T20 tournament. The decision was taken after the context of the tournament was questioned in light of the ODI World Cups being played in 2019 and 2023. And at the end of its 5-day board meeting, the ICC chief executive said that the global body unanimously agreed to convert the 50-over tournament into a 16-team T20 event, which means that only for the second time ever, 2 ICC World T20 events will take place in 2 years, including the 2020 edition in Australia and the 2021 edition in India. The first time it happened was in 2009 in England and 2010 in West Indies. And top Indian shuttlers Saina Nehwal, PV Sindhu, Kidambi Srikanth and HS Pranoy have entered the singles quarter-finals of the Asia Badminton Championships. Saina Nehwal outwitted China's Gao Fangjai in a 40-minute clash. She will now face unseeded Korean Lee Chang-mi. Third seed PV Sindhu also registered a commanding win over another Chinese, Chen Xianqiu. And Srikanth advanced when his opponent, Hong Kong's Won Wei Vincent, retired at 2-7 in the first game to hand over the quarter-final spot to the Indian. And HS Pranoy bounced back from a game down to overcome Chinese Taipei's Wang Su Wei in 3 games. He will now meet second seed Song Won Ho of Korea. And that's it in this edition of Breakfast News. But news and updates continue on your channel. Thanks for watching.